Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. You're at that 1870s homestead and my name's Rachel, and we started a really fun winter project to keep us active and creative in the kitchen all winter long with our Amish Friendship Bread Starter. And in the last video I made some delicious blueberry pancakes. That's what I chose to use my starter for the very first time. A lot of people, and I know me, 20 some years ago when I was using Amish Friendship Bread Starter, I only ever made, the sweet loaf, the sweet loaf breads that are typically a cinnamon sugar type bread, but you can do like chocolate chip and blueberry. Think of zucchini bread or pumpkin bread, something like that. So I chose instead to do blueberry pancakes for my first use of this starter. This is day 10 of this starter being prepared, so I have a lot of it to use. So I'm going to go ahead and whip up some pie crust. The holidays are right around the corner. I want to have pie crust in the freezer ready to go. Now I'm not going to be baking one today because I just don't have the need. But if you stick around and you're new here, welcome. We'd invite you to subscribe because we do show everything that we make homemade from scratch here on our channel, from food that we grow, homemade goodies, things like that. So there will be maybe a pot pie around the corner or that good Granny Wyatt's pumpkin pie. So let's see what we need to get started on this recipe. This recipe makes 4 pie crusts. All right, to start out with, we have a 1 cup measuring cup. I'm just gonna set it in my bowl so I don't make a spilly mess. And I'm gonna add a cup of our Friendship Bread Starter. Now, I will tell you, if you're just here for pie crust recipes, not specific to Friendship Bread Starter uses or sourdough starter, something like that, my all-time favorite pie crust recipe is Pioneer Woman's. It's so buttery, so flaky, absolutely delicious. So now to this, we're going to add 2 cups of lard. You can use shortening. I suppose you could probably use butter. Yeah, I know you could. You could use butter the same. This is just leaf lard from our pigs. That was half of a cup, so I'll be right back once I get all this in. All right, we have our good, delicious pile of lard in there. Now I'm gonna add a teaspoon of baking powder. I am modifying the recipe that I found because it did call for additional sugar, and I think that sourdough starter is so sweet as it is. I'm not adding additional sugar to it. Seems quite unnecessary to me. Now to this we need to add 4 cups of flour. So if you are a homemaker and you make your family's recipes mostly from homemade ingredients, I will tell you whether it's breads, pie crusts, all kinds of things. You saw me at the beginning of the video having to refill my flour jar, and that's probably a regular cadence this time of year. So now I'm just going to get my dough hooks on my beaters and beat this together. You could totally do this by hand. I normally do when I use my Pioneer Woman recipe, but this shortening is quite sticky, so I just don't want a big mess. Just scraping down, tossing that flour off the edge in here, and I suppose you could use a food processor or your KitchenAid. Just number 1, I don't have a food processor. Number 2, the KitchenAid's just too heavy. So we're just doing the one thing today, and that's it. right, that's good enough to get that initial mix in. I am going to go in my hands just to put this together. And if you're new to making pie crust, a lot of times pie crust can look dry, but if you keep working it, it holds together. And then what I'm going to do for today's purposes is I'm just going to roll them out on parchment paper and roll them up like you would get prepped pie crust from the grocery store, and then we'll freeze them and they'll be ready to use. You just take them out of your freezer and thaw as needed. A lot of times this time of year, that's what I like to do, is just get a bunch of pie crust ready, and then you don't have to think about making a pie crust when you need it. All right, I think that's good. Big old ball of pie crust. I'm just gonna get my kitchen scale real quick and weigh this just so I know what equal portions will be, because I stink. I don't know about you, about eyeballing equal portions. So, oops, let me go to a different. Right at 2.77 pounds. Okay, we have our dough balls equaled out into 4 equal portions. I'm just gonna wrap these and set them in the fridge because I do need them to harden before I try to roll these out. So probably like 30 minutes. So I just set them out maybe 30 minutes ago just to bring them back up to room temperature so they're easy to roll. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I can always roll it out a little bit more to see how it is. So I'm just going to now, just like you would get from the grocery store, roll it up. And I'm just going to store these just like this in my freezer, and then we'll have pie cut crust ready when we need them. Or whether it's dessert pies or savory pies like pot pies. Last project of the day is done, but guys, look at that Amish Friendship Bread that just came out of the oven too. So I'm choosing to, normally you would store these, I would store these in Ziploc baggies. I'm just running shy on those, and I can just wrap them individually in foil. So 1 second while I rip a bunch of foil. And then I'm gonna take them and just roll them up. Label them, stick them in my freezer. And these will be good. I've used frozen pie crust up to 6 months if they last that long. It just, knowing I have them ready to go in the freezer, somehow my mind comes up with all the ways to use them then. So I foresee a quiche in our future with these. Definitely a chicken pot pie. It is fall, by the way, so it just, all those kind of warm, happy meals are, I've been not cooking during the summer and I'm ready, it's fall. And then probably our pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving and maybe a pecan pie for Christmas, and I'm ready. So thanks guys for coming along with me today. Happy sourdough or friendship bread starter making wherever you are. And if you're intimidated by the idea of sourdough, like I was, and it wasn't so much that I was intimidated, I just could never get it active enough. And to be honest with you, like while I enjoy sourdough bread every now and then with like a soup or something like that, I'm not the biggest fan of that super strong sour flavor. So this allows me to mellow that a little bit with a sweeter version. So I can't wait to continue to get creative in the kitchen this winter, and I'll see you guys on the next video.